What's up guys, Lexus Overland here. Today I'm going to be telling you all about this roof rack behind me and putting it up on my truck. So let's dive in. Alright, so this rack is made by Big Country 4x4. They're a South African company. It is a fully welded aluminum rack with nice tracks, some nice cross members, so it's very, very strong. Fantastic load bars running front to back. It's even got a track all the way around the perimeter on the top and the bottom, which is going to be great for installing lights, other accessories, things like that. What's really fantastic about this rack is it has these tracks that install to your roof and then feet that install on the tracks, and then the rack installs onto those feet. So it's extremely strong and will not fall off. Everybody's seen the video of that truck going down, I think they call it the bullet hole, and right when it hits the bottom, their whole roof rack slides off. Yeah, it won't happen with this. And what's really nice too is it has a rubber bottom, so it completely seals your gutter up on the roof from water. You just need to put a little bit of a silicone bead for the holes, which we'll get to. And yeah, so this is the rack. It only weighs around 70 pounds. It's beautiful, it comes coated. It ships just like this because it's fully welded. And let's get into the hardware that it comes with. Here's the hardware that comes with the rack. You have these lovely stainless steel bolts to hold the track down. You have these nut covers so that you maintain a nice appearance on all the visible nuts and they don't catch on anything. And you have these feet. So these feet they look simple, but they're actually kind of an engineering marvel when all built together. Each foot has an 89-pound dynamic load rating. And these were engineered using finite element analysis by mechanical engineers. So it's a legitimate load rating claim. And all together, you get about 550 pounds of dynamic load rating, which is absurd. To give you a comparison, the stock rack that came with my truck had a sticker that said no more than 150 pounds of dynamic load. And you'll be hard-pressed to find a roof rack that you can buy today that claims a dynamic load rating, because it requires testing, it requires actual design, and it requires software that is expensive. So Big Country 4x4 has quite a few mechanical engineers on staff, probably almost all of them. So you get a rack that is designed by engineers that will hold an absurd amount of dynamic load. And then lastly, you have these feet, or these legs that attach to the feet that then attach the rack just to hold it up there. You do have these nice little leveling holes right here so you can change how tall the rack is. And yeah, it's beautiful. Everything is powder coated or stainless. Nylock nuts so nothing's going anywhere. This is the rack. So I'm going to remove the old one that I have up here and also show you how you would remove the stock rack. I still have the components, so you can just get an idea of what to look out for. Okay, here are your stock roof rack components. You have the rails, you have the crossbar, you have the gutter guard, you have the feet covers, and you have the bolts holding it in. So to begin with the removal of this, you'll have to pop off all four of the feet covers. To do so, notice that this little dowel thing that's caught in these holes is actually at a 45 when installed. So you can see kind of that. So when you're pulling these out, instead of pulling straight up or straight out like you might expect, you actually have to pull upwards and outwards at the same time at a 45. So you can pry at each edge and then just grab it with your hands and yank. It will come out. If it breaks, it doesn't really matter because you're replacing the roof rack. That's how you remove these. They have these little metal pieces in here with like a little tooth or something that is pointed downward, so when you push it in, it catches it and doesn't want to let you pull it back out. So that's how you get the feet covers. Once you get the covers off, you can get to these bolts. They are a T40. Do not strip them because that would be a nightmare. Once you have all the bolts off, you can loosen up the crossbars and then just slide them out the end. It's a T thing just like that. You can remove the feet if you'd like, just to make it a little easier, or you can take it off altogether. Not a big deal. This gutter guard is really annoying to pry off, but it doesn't really matter if you destroy it because you're putting a new roof rack on. So it's got a bunch of plastic clips along the way that you will have to remove, and you just get to work on that. And then there are some more bolts up here that you'll have to remove for the track to fit, because you will be putting new screws in here. And you can see here's all the attachment points for the gutter guard. But yeah, those are your stock roof rack components. Super, super simple to remove. Not a big deal, just a couple tools and you're good to go. All right, let's work on preparing the track for install on the roof. So as I mentioned, there's a rubber piece on the bottom. I've gotten this side installed just so that I know what I'm talking about. And it actually sits on top of the roof all the way along. So you might not need to remove the little like trim piece. However, removing that trim piece does give you access to some bolt holes that may be covered and you'll never need it again. So it might be worth removing just so things don't get stuck in there. So moving back to the track, this rubber piece doesn't have holes, so we need to poke some holes in it. I'm gonna use a step bit to do so. I'm just gonna poke a very small hole and then shove the bolt through the rest. That way the rubber kind of creates a little bit of a seal. I will be putting silicone on this as well, but you can never be too certain on preventing water leaks because they suck. So let's get to poking some holes. All right, so here's where we need to put the hole. I'm gonna flip it over, feel for it with my fingers. Sometimes it might be a little lower than you expect. And then just pop a little hole in it like that. Find the next hole down. This one's usually a little bit harder to get into. So you'll use the step bit. There you go. So it doesn't even look like there's really a hole there. And that'll be nice and tight around the bolt, which is good. Just gonna keep on going down. All right, so we're up here on the roof. We're gonna use the frontmost, the middle, and the rear roof rack attachment points. You'll also notice that the track has a bit of a bend at the end, and that's because the roof has a bend. So a bend goes to the back. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take some silicone. I'm gonna beat it up in these holes before putting this over it, just for extra safety against water intrusion. And then I'm gonna hand start each of these and then go from there. Okay, I've got the rack generally in the position that it's gonna be in, and I'm gonna take the silicone and put some beads on the bolt holes as well. So that way it's triple action. You've got the rubber grommet, you've got silicone up here and silicone down there. Ain't no water getting in this thing. All right, you wanna make sure that you hand thread these to start. It's very important. If you push out the little capture nut things, it's gonna be a bad day. You will have to drop the headliner to fix that. So it's a 5mm Allen or hex, whatever you want to call it. And just get them started. Don't go too tight. If you need a little bit of help, you can, but be very gentle. All right, so I'm gonna progressively tighten these down until it's on, and I'll show you the final result. All right, there she is. Nice and installed. Beautiful. This rubber thing is so sweet. It's such a nice touch. I really like this track. It's really neat. The idea behind it, the strength behind it. You see the other side, good to go. Next is the feet. All right, so here are the feet. As you can see, I put the others on already. It's very simple. You just have these, I guess, T-nut type things that slide onto this track right here. Make sure that this side faces out. Check this out. You have heftily welded capture nuts on here. Those are not going anywhere. And So yeah, it's just very simple. Slide it on there. You might have to yank it over the bolts that install the track, but it's not bad. You can take these nuts off, take the foot off, and then hammer them through if you have to. But they should just slide right on like mine did. And now we're going to get the legs that bolt onto here and actually hold the rack. So we're getting close, real close. All right, let's talk about the legs. So as you can see, there are two different sizes. You have 4 of the short and 2 of the long. The 2 long go in the front because they're the furthest off the roof. So it makes sense that the long goes in the front. If you do not put the long ones in the front, you will not be able to level the rack. It will be crooked, it'll look bad. All right, so the basic principle behind installing these feet is very simple. So you have this height keeping bolt that goes through one of these 4 holes right here. So you'll obviously have to take that off first. It's got a nut, a nylock nut, and a washer. And then for these feet, they have these bolts with a lock washer and a washer. These are grade 8.8 bolts, so they are not going to break, which is nice. And then you just take this, like so, put it on, and then put back in the bolts. Make sure throughout this process that anything that needs to move, so the feet, the legs, etc., stays finger tight until the very end. That way adjustments are easy. That is how you install the legs, or I guess the feet to the legs, or the legs to the feet, one of the two. Very simple, very easy. You can see height adjustment right there, and then to lock it in, you can use these. For this one, that's it. All right, I've got all 6 feet on, or legs on the feet, which is exciting. I just want to highlight how good this hardware is. It's all stainless steel. It all looks like I went down to Ace Hardware and bought the most expensive one that they had. It's an appropriate grade. It's appropriate size washers all around. It's got lock washers and nylock, so they're not going to move. I mean, you're definitely going to want to check the torque or whatever after like a week of driving, but I don't expect that you'll find a loose nut or a bolt, because this is good stuff. So next step is figuring out how to put that up here by myself. So that's going to be a lot of fun, but as always, we'll do it. All right, it's up there. It is in no way installed, but it's up here. Look at this thing. As you saw, I just put rags over the feet, lifted it up, set it on. These 3 crossbars, you got 1 foot here, 1 foot in the middle, 1 foot at the front. So you have 2 unused. So it's pretty straightforward. Man, it looks good. I don't think it's centered at this point, obviously, but it's up there. Hell yeah. To get these 2 bolts in, if you have a helper, you can put them on before you put the rack in. If you don't, there is a hole, like a little access point similar to this, where you can stick the bolt in like this and slide it to where you need it. It's in the middle of the rack up here, so you can just reach over and then slide it down, and then that just bolts in right here and right here on the legs. And then obviously you have these capture nuts, welded on capture nuts to bolt it to the feet. So that is how you install the legs. Please remember, long goes in the front. Well, there she is in the nearly installed glory. All bolts are in their holes. All nuts are on their bolts, which is desirable. The only thing left to do is center it, position it front to back so it doesn't interfere with the hatch, and tighten everything. I will not bore you with that because it is a lot of bolts. Yeah. This thing is incredibly good looking and it's so beefy. So I'm gonna work on that. Probably won't even do like a time lapse or anything because it's just boring. And when it's done, I'll show you all what I did. All right, quick little status update. I have every bolt tightened all the way until it's almost tight, but still loose so it can move because I gotta adjust it. But I just wanted to give some tips and tricks. So a shallow 13 on a 1/4 inch drive is your friend and will allow you to get all of the corners. And then for the middle, I have a ratcheting 13. And I found that if you put it like this to get, I'm talking specifically about these bolts that hold the rack to the feet or the legs or whatever, because they're difficult to access. If you hold it like this, when you kink it up a little bit, it will get on there and then you can ratchet it real good. Luckily, all this hardware is metric, so 13 it is for pretty much everything. And yeah, it's not bad. That helps a lot. This makes pretty quick work of this. It's a tight fit, you know, you're working between the slats, but it's not a big deal. So now I have to center it, or not center it, but position it front to back, kind of show you. You don't want it to hit the hatch, so I'm gonna make it pretty much in line with that line right here. And then obviously centered side to side, left to right. The rack does have a back, which is this smaller portion from the crossbar. It does have a front, which is this larger portion. So you get this nice overhang. Otherwise it'd be sticking way out far in the back if you put that back there. And as you can see, this is almost to the front here and it's close to the back there. So there is a front and a back. Please don't put it on backwards. But I'm gonna position it, tighten everything up, put the height locker things in, and then show y'all what's up. We've got the rack perfectly centered and also exactly where I want it front to back, just in front of this line, which is fantastic. Let me show you what I did to assist with centering. So the feet are static points side to side on the truck, which is helpful because you can just throw a ruler up here, measure it, compare it to the other side, shift as needed. And then I tightened one of the inner bolts to just kind of secure it side to side. And I came back to the back, did the same thing back here. Once they're identical side to side, the distance from foot to the outer, I tightened those bolts, double checked all my measurements, and then tightened everything up. Took me all of 5 minutes to do, which is really nice because usually centering things takes forever. So you can use the feet as a reference for the side to side, and then the front to back is just this visual, pretty simple. And so next I'm gonna set the height using these holes. This one, I believe, is almost as far up as it'll go, so I'll probably set this one at the highest, and then the rest will follow. It's interesting, on the 100 series roofs, they slope down and also get skinnier. So you can see how it kind of tucks in and also slopes down. But this rack's got it covered. It's got height adjustment and side to side adjustment. Thing's brilliant. And it is so solid. It's not even like actually bolted down all the way yet, and it's insanely solid. So I'm super stoked. Almost done. Yay. Ride height is set. I've got this one in the third hole, this one in the bottom hole, and this one in the second hole. That's because roof. Lowest point, highest point, second lowest point. I think it looks perfect. The little adjustment screws, or the height screws, these things, man, they're so annoying to put on. Because so you put it through here, and then you've got a washer and a nut on the other side, and you have like no space. So what I did is I was able to fish the washer on. I don't know if I'm even gonna be able to show you all this. I was able to fish the washer on to right here, and then I used my magnetic pickup tool, just stuck the bolt on the end, and then, or the nut on the end, held it in place, and then just threaded it on by hand. It was so tight, so difficult, but it's on there, it's good. Now all I have to do is tighten these up, then tighten these up. The rack's on. It's really not hard. This being welded means that you don't have to mess with putting anything together except for the feet and the track. I mean, I'm taking my time filming. This will probably be a 2-hour install. I bet if you were just blitzing through it, not filming, it'd be a 1-hour thing. Done. And then you have this beast of a rack. Ladies and gentlemen, probably mostly gentlemen, you're looking at the Big Country 4x4 roof rack distributed by Rugged Bound on a 100 series Land Cruiser. Well, LX 470, but basically a Land Cruiser. Look at this thing. It's beautiful. I think I probably said that like 5 times in this video, but that's okay. Got the nut covers on. Essential. Gotta cover your nuts. That way nothing bad happens to them. Look at the thing. She's on. Tightening was easy. It's all 13 millimeter. Use a wrench here. Use a socket on a ratchet there and there. Really not bad. I did put these bolts as far out as possible so I can put the ratcheting wrench on it. Easy. That's it. So, in summary, you first install the tracks, then you install the feet, then you install the legs, then you install the rack, then you center it, level it, and tighten. Remember not to tighten anything before it's where it needs to be. Remember to hand thread the track. Try not to be forceful, because if you drop the capture nuts, you're gonna have to drop the headliner to fix it. And once you're done, it's just time to admire and use the heck out of this thing. That's what it's built for. Appreciate y'all sticking around, watching the video. I am going to have more videos on this of things that I do to it, how I use it, how I put the tent on. I'm gonna put some lights on, how I put wiring through it, all sorts of stuff. So definitely stay tuned for that. Thank y'all for watching. This is Lexus Overland, and this is a heck of a roof rack. Thank y'all.